Welcome to What is Going for new thought from the edge of Each week on OMTimes flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandie Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Here is your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello. Have you ever wondered what the famously dead might have to say from the other side? What messages they might share with the world now that they have a higher perspective, not just on the lives they lived, but also on how they might do things differently if they knew then what they know now? Lisa Najjar is an international psychic medium, a transformational speaker and teacher who received a surprise visit and an encouraging personal message from Walt Disney, a dead Walt Disney, several years ago. A few years later, he showed up again with a project that he wanted her to undertake, a book of channeled messages from dead celebrities and historical figures. Intrigued but busy, she politely refused. 2 years later, in 2015, Walt Disney returned. Only this time he had two friends with him, Abraham Lincoln and George Harrison. Now would she help them with this project? They asked. Well, what would you say? Lisa Najjar joins us now to talk about her book, Dying to Tell You, Channeled Messages from the Famously Dead, in which a collection of dead celebrities and historical figures such as George Harrison, Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe, Martin Luther King Jr., Einstein, John Lennon and Abe Lincoln, and many more, share messages that they want us to heed. Lisa Najjar, welcome.
Hi, Sandie. Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here.
Lisa, so you used to be a Supreme Court reporter, and now you say you're reporting for a higher court, not the Supreme Court, but the Celestial Court. So, I've given a very, very brief run out of what happened, but tell us in your own words how that change occurred.
Gosh, it was, it even seems a little bit unbelievable to me, even at this point. Yes, I was. I sat in federal court and took down the judge's, words and the lawyer's words. And I was always a natural medium psychic, since I was a kid. But I just never thought I would do it for a living. I had no interest in doing it for a living. And it wasn't really until these messages came. And Walt Disney, in fact, and thank you for your description of what happened, my history, because it was really well put, and I was intrigued. And he actually came first to tell me about a TV show many, many years ago. I had been given by Spirit a TV show called What a Fool Believes, and it was a comedy, a spiritual comedy, and it was just fantastic. And I was, living in Canada at the time and just a suburban housewife, didn't know a thing about TV, so I wasn't sure how to get that on the air, didn't have any resources. But Walt came to me and said, don't give up on that dream. I'm going to help you get that on TV. So that was really his first visitation, which was a big shock. And then many years later, he came to ask about this book, and that's when I said no for a few years. And then finally that trio came in, as you mentioned. And yes, how could one say no to that group? And so I said yes. And, that's what took me into this world. That and Deva Premal getting a hold of the book and really enjoying the messages and then promoting that out with her fans and all her listeners. And, it started from there. And then I ended up, this is what I do now, full time, private clients and teaching and all the rest of it. So sometimes I guess we just go where Spirit takes us.
Now, you say that you didn't write the book, you simply transcribed the messages that they wanted to share with the world from the other side. That's a pretty surreal experience. How did you contain yourself while you're taking this information down?
That's a really interesting question, Sandie, because anyone who knew me back in those days, and it came through in 2015 originally. Now, I sat on it and did nothing with it for a long while. But when it came through, anyone who knew me back then would say, Lisa, of all the people that they knew, Lisa's the one that is the least interested in anything, celebrity oriented, I just was just not interested. I didn't even have a TV. I wasn't interested in that sort of thing. I didn't watch know who's who and what they're doing. So when I heard that it was going to be about, at least have some celebrities and famous historical figures, it was a turnoff. I was not interested. I said, no, I don't want to bring forth information about so-and-so's life and all that. Sure, it might be interesting to some, but it isn't to me, and I have to stick with my integrity, and that's not something I'm passionate about, so I'm not going to do it. And I wasn't interested. And they assured me, no, it won't be like that. And thank God it wasn't like that, because that's not something I probably would have gotten behind. I don't care who came to ask me. But you know what? It turned out to be deep, wise, but very simple and yet profound messages about things that matter. These people, these souls, they had everything. They had intellect and fame, power, money, influence, looks. They had it all. They had everything on the earth plane. And some of them, Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King, they had a cause. And, they were really well regarded in many, many ways. And yet each one of them died and realized that doesn't matter. Einstein's intellect didn't matter anymore. And so-and-so's power and fame and money didn't matter anymore. Elvis's, none of them. So, they all kind of were reduced to this commonality, and that is our heart and our goodness. And we're only asked a few things when we cross over. How much did we learn? How much did we love? Did we have the courage to follow our truth? Those types of things matter. The rest, it's just amusement while we're here on the earth, and that's about it.
So, two big whys. Why you, and why did they want to share these messages now?
I asked that because I was perplexed. Why me? I'm a suburban housewife, actually a single mom at that time. By the time the book came around, I was now single mom living in Calgary, Canada. I said, why me? Why? I don't even do this for a living. Why? Surely there are others you could choose. And they said, because while you are not doing the work, so to speak, your heart and your very essence is about raising consciousness on the planet. And that is true. They're right about that. I've only ever had a desire to help raise consciousness on the planet. And they also said, because you're not interested in fame and fortune, because you're not sort of goo-goo gaga, I guess, about celebrity type things and all the rest of it, because of that, you won't, muck up the progression here. That's not going to get in the way. You won't kind of get distracted by that. So in other words, your heart is pure in the sense of these messages. You just care about getting the words out and helping people to live more meaningful lives. Well, they're here in these bodies. And because we know that, that's why you. And why do we need to get the messages out now? Well, it was true in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. But boy, oh boy, are they ever true now in 2020 more than ever, because they're messages of unity, peace, love, that there is hope, that there is another life after this. In fact, our true life is after this. And what we do today does matter, so we need to care about that. And things like that. And it could not be more important than right now. I'm sure many of us would agree on that.
Yeah. Now, you describe yourself as a psychic medium. How is that different from medium or just plain psychic?
That's a very good question. Yeah. So it's really where you get the information. So a psychic gets information from the field. I call it the collective field, or sometimes the aura of somebody, the universal field. Whereas a medium is a direct, basically like a telephone receiver. I just take dictation for what someone's loved one has to say, or in this case too, famously did, and or higher masters like Jesus, Mary, Isis. I channel a lot of the high beings as well, and some of them are in the book. But a psychic medium, the way I like to teach, when I teach, I say that every medium is a psychic, but not every psychic is a medium, because they're a little bit different skills. It's just that you can't be a medium without having the ability to be psychic. So that's I guess the simple way to put it.
So give us a run through. I've mentioned a few of the celebrities, but not all of them by any means. I mean, were there any that really shocked you in terms of, wow, imagine them wanting to talk to me?
Yes, one shocked me a great deal, Davey Jones. Now, for any of our listeners that are younger, they may not know Davey Jones from the Monkees, but man, I know him, and he was my favorite. So I met Davey in Calgary after a comedy show where my best friend is a comedian, and they were in the other room next door, and we met the band. They were doing a sort of a revival a number of years ago, and we were talking, and somebody even snapped a picture, which is in the book, of Davey and I at the bar talking about life after death. And he kept saying, "Oh, when you're dead, Lisa," in his great British accent. And I said, "No, Davey, no, there's life after death." And I said, "I'm going to schedule you for a past life regression." Well, a number of years later, to my shock and surprise, he shows up. And I was like, "No, Davey, did you die?" Because as I said, I didn't watch TV and I didn't watch any news or any of that. So I had no idea he had passed. And I had to Google to find out, to make sure I actually channeled him, but it was him. And he was delightful. As on earth, so he is in heaven now. And so he was a huge shock. And I think Waylon Jennings, I didn't know who he was, believe it or not. I know it's a little embarrassing, but I didn't. So I channeled him, but I thought, I don't even know who you are. So, he was one. And Cleopatra, she surprised me because I didn't know at first who it was, but I sat up very straight and I thought, wow, who is this? It's somebody with a lot of nobility and authority and power. And so that was a shock to me anyways. And yeah, there's Elvis and who else is in there? Jane Mansfield. She died tragically. I think when she was only young, like in her 20s, and she, and so I knew of her, of course, but I didn't know much of her. And she really talks a lot about body image, and she spent all her beautiful young life worrying about someone being more beautiful or getting ahead in the acting business, and taking her place, and am I beautiful enough, and on and on. And she speaks a lot to women about body image and men too, but mostly women, about how important it is from where she is now, what she can tell us about, body image. I mean, it's not at all what we would think here. So she's in it, and Marilyn Monroe, of course, and Jane Russell, another old-time actress, and a few of them, Shirley Temple and John Wayne, and then, of course, like I said, Martin Luther King and Michael Jackson and John Lennon, George Harrison, a lot of musicians. They said, wow, we could start a band over here. It was cute.
So tell me about Marilyn Monroe. I mean, did any, there's a big mystery around her death. Did she shed any light on that?
No, she didn't. And there's some mysteries around a few deaths. Hers, yeah. And some would say Elvis and Michael Jackson and a few. But no, none of them did. And, I'm okay with that. Because, again, I didn't know even the controversies because I don't follow anything. So I don't know. I'm kind of glad that they didn't, and they didn't. So that suited me fine. I don't know if there are books out there that do channel her talking about that. There could be, but I haven't heard of anything. So.
I'm sorry, I think we're losing you there, Lisa. Could you just say a few words so that I know you're still on the line?
Yes, I am. Yes.
You are.
You were there.
Okay. I think there's some kind of interruption then perhaps at my end because you keep fading in and out. So tell us about some of the messages that they gave? I mean, you said there was a commonality amongst all of the messages, but there must have been some individual messages and little snippets of information that they may have given you insights about their own lives and their own understandings.
Yeah, there was a lot. I think the commonality is really just, what the purpose of life is and how to live a meaningful one. And one that I loved is Paul Newman. He spoke so much about life after death and love and how love bonds never end. And they just don't. It doesn't matter that someone's passed. Yes, it's hard to be without them in the physical. But on the other hand, don't ever think that they have gone. In fact, some of them say, we're more here now than we ever were when we were there. We're able to see you now more. And the other one that touched me so deeply was Walt's message to parents who have lost children, because he explained how these children, they can't really go too far until their parents are feeling better. They don't want to go too far. They're worrying about their parents. And so when there's heavy, heavy sadness and grief, and sometimes parents won't move on at all, like they just won't source any joy out of their lives once they lose a child, which is understandable. But he wanted us to know that the kids won't go very far. They won't sort of enjoy their freedom where they are yet. So not to say parents have to, hurry up, we need to grieve so we can let your children go. Not like that, but just being mindful that they want us to be as happy as we can. So even if it's a little joy, we see a flower, a beautiful flower, we stop, we admire it, or a sunset, those things, or we laugh, somebody makes a joke and we laugh, a real belly laugh. That brings the child or any of your loved ones so much joy. It's like a balloon, like a hot air balloon that they cut and it can finally fly. So these are important things. And again, everyone needs to grieve in their own time, in their own way. But just know that the more joy you have when you move on and love again, your child, your loved one, your husband, whoever it was that passed, they are so happy and it frees them. So don't ever feel guilty for laughing again or loving again, not at all, or living again.
I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. You're listening to What Is Going On, and my guest today is international psychic medium, transformational speaker and author Lisa Najjar. And we're talking about her book, Dying to Tell You, Channeled Messages from the Famously Dead. Still to come, why did Albert Einstein change his theory of relativity to the theory of irrelevance? And why would Steve McQueen give anything for another shot at living? And a message from George Harrison after the break.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hello, I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes' flagship radio show, What Is Going On. As a long-time editor, book judge, spiritual magazine publisher and radio host, I've read thousands of books and interviewed hundreds of authors and teachers. So I know what's worth reading and what isn't. Now, with the spiritual book market growing increasingly crowded, more and more people are seeking my help in finding the authentic voices, the empowering tools, and the genuine skip the BS guidance that will make the most difference to their spiritual development. So I decided to make it easier by bringing my knowledge, experience and considerable network of contacts together in the No BS Spiritual Book Club. There are no ads, no joining fees, no obligations and no BS. Just an ever-growing library compiled by recognisable and respected names of the 10 best books that helped them the most on their journeys. Plus free book excerpts, audios and live video interviews where you can quiz them about their spiritual journeys and their 10 best list choices. Your time and money are valuable, your spiritual journey even more so. If you're looking for genuine guidance from people who've walked this path before you, check out Sedgbeer.com. Click on the No BS Spiritual Book Club tab and join the club. That's Sedgbeer.com, SEDGBEER.com. I'll see you there.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Lisa Najjar. George Harrison, he turned up a few times. He turned up with Walt Disney, and he turned up with Jesus, and then he turned up later on with a special message that he wanted to give to the world. First of all, let's look at why did he turn up with Jesus?
That was always a surprise to me when he would show up with Jesus. I used to get confused. I'd see, and he came a couple times with them, once or twice when he didn't speak, but with Jesus, and they were always in white, and I would confuse them at times. And then I finally asked, why do you come with him like that? And he told me that he was job shadowing. He was job shadowing Jesus. It was the cutest thing ever. And he is basically an apprentice. I mean, he's in the mastery program, let's just say it that way. And it was just lovely, lovely, lovely to hear that and to talk with him. And again, believe it or not, because I don't follow much in the way of sort of celebrity anything, I, of course, love the music back in the day and all, and who doesn't, but I didn't know anything about him. I honestly did not know anything about his spiritual life or any part of that when he was on Earth. So to me, it was all new information because I have always been that way. I just don't bother with anything like that. I don't care about anything that anyone's doing, to be honest with you. I just focus on those around me and what I'm doing and myself and working my own program, I guess. And he showed up a few times, not only in the book, but he comes to me quite often. He came, usually it's funny, Sandie, he comes on the anniversary of his death. And I did not know the anniversary of his death, but 2 years in a row, he'd show up, and I'd think, why? And it would be the next day or maybe later that evening where I'd maybe be on Instagram or Facebook, and I happen to see, a memory of George passing today. And I thought, oh, my God, no wonder he keeps coming on that exact day. And I guess it's November. See, I don't remember even now. But he'll show up, and he gives a message to me usually on those days. So he's done that a few times. And he also just showed up in June of this year. Dave Pramal and I were in a session, and he came and gave a message, kind of a worldly message. So he is showing up, not, I would say often, but more often, I think, than a lot of the others, just on a regular basis.
He likes her music, doesn't he?
He loved her music, especially that Gayatri. Yes,
yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay, so there's one particular message that you publish in your book from George, November 2018. Would you like to read a little bit of that?
Sure, thank you. Yes, he did come in January of 2018, and he said, you have such a sweet gift in front of you. That gift is life. What are you doing with yours? What are you laughing about? What are you dancing? Who are you dancing with? What are you dreaming or creating or running towards? You're here on earth to experience your heart's desire. What is your heart's desire? Do you even know? Look, where I'm at these days is literally out of this world. it feels like it couldn't get any better. But for all this magnificence, I still come to tell you that right where you are now, on that planet, in that incarnation, is magical. The opportunities and growth and experiences, the play, if you will, is fabulous. Don't miss a second of it. So start today by setting aside your worries, your doubts, your problems. Instead, run towards something your heart is passionate about. It could be a person, an experience, maybe a wish, a dream, a hope, or just an idea. But run towards it. Take the step today to go in the direction of something that stirs your heart and your soul and awakens stirs your soul and awakens your heart. You know what it is. You know. So run towards it. And I mean, that was a great message for me at the time. And, you know, he also came just a few months back in the middle of all this world chaos. And he actually told us, this was a bit of a world message. He said, what you guys don't know is in the middle of all this is actually an excellent time to manifest. So think about what it is you want and start dreaming it again. And that fits with that message I just read. But he said, because right now, the veil between this world and that one is very, very thin. There's almost no veil left. And second of all, people are so busy being in angst and worry that they're all creating on that highway. And that's basically the fear highway. And nobody's over there on the creation highway. So he says the highway's empty. And he was singing Life is a Highway in my ear really loudly and saying, get on that highway. There's no one on it, and start creating, because he said miracles abound. Miracles are ready to happen for everybody right now. So for all of you guys listening, start dreaming those dreams again and get those vision boards out and start thinking about what stirs your soul and go towards it like he's asking us to.
Mm. Wow. Well, you said that Albert Einstein changed his theory of relativity to the theory of irrelevance. I mean, does he really think then that the work he did, the discoveries he made, are completely irrelevant?
No, I don't know. He didn't really talk too much about that, but what he was referring to there is he was so revered for his intellect, and it's fun in the book because he comes in and he's kind of disappointed and shocked. He said, when I crossed over, I was just shocked at how ordinary I was. I'm not revered here for anything. We're all special. We all have these gifts. But he said, I was so overloved in a sense for that, for my gifts and all my intellect and what I created from it. And he said it was an adjustment to realize that everyone's kind of the same. We're just all special in our own way, yes, but we're all equal in lots of ways. And that was a tough pill to swallow for him. And so that's what he means by irrelevant. He says, don't go through life wanting to be and being pumped up or deflated by somebody's view of you, whether it's for your talent, your looks, your money. Don't get too inflated about it, and also don't get deflated about it. Don't let others' opinions of you influence how you feel about you, because it's irrelevant. All of it's irrelevant. What others think of you is irrelevant. It's only what you think of you that matters, and that's the only thing that carries over to the other world. And work on having a high esteem for yourself, period, even if you don't do anything, because it's not about what you do. It's about that you are. You simply are.
You know, most of them seem to have this incredible perspective on their lives, who they were, what they did, etc. But somebody who seemed particularly regretful was Steve McQueen. His was quite a touching piece because he seemed to have a number of regrets, realizations that he'd made, and he still hadn't fully got over, feeling bad about them.
Yeah, he and Elvis both. Yeah, they did. And I remember mostly what stands in my mind about Steve. And it's funny, I haven't read my own chapter for a while about Steve, but what stands in my mind about him is is he just loved living. He just loved this earth. And even though it's amazing where he is, and he admits that, he wants another shot at living. He just wants to be back. He, and I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't reincarnate and come back quicker than maybe others would, because he just loves the excitement about life and all that life had to do, and he knows. He said, I did a lot of things this way and that way, and I changed things this way, but ultimately it's the ride, the roller coaster ride that he wants again.
Mm. Yeah. Now, John Lennon, he said some very, very sweet things about his woman, Yoko, and, knowing that they were twin souls, or certainly implying that, they had a contract, they found one another, and, it was just absolutely beautiful. Were you ever tempted to pass any of those messages on, to somebody like Yoko, if you could get through to her?
I really wrestled with that, and I'll tell you why. It was actually Paul Newman. Paul Newman specifically asked me to reach out to his people, and I couldn't. I mean, here I was putting this out, and I kept the book on my computer for a long time because I thought, I can't. Who's going to believe this? I can't get this out there. And it took a lot to get it out there. And then it was stages. When I finally got to the stage where I could accept that I even did it and that it was there, then I had to, walk forward. And I wrestled. Should I, shouldn't I? Is it my place? I don't know. I mean, if I'm in a store and I get a message, not that I do, but if I did get a message for the person in line in front of me, I would not just tap them on the shoulder and give it to them. I feel that if someone wants a message, they will come. And I don't think it's my place to give messages if it's not asked for. And you don't know somebody's perspective. They might not believe in the afterlife, or who knows what they would think. And it might be, who knows. And so even though he asked me to, I just couldn't. I thought, it's not my place. Oh, my God. And who am I? And what if that brings more sorrow to them? Oh, my God, should I, shouldn't I? I wrestled and wrestled. And finally, I was ready. I was actually ready to do it. And a friend of mine grew up with their daughter, I guess are neighbors to them, and is still friends with one of Steve's daughters. And she said, if you want, I'd pass this on. And we found out that it was really to his wife that he wanted the message. And we found out that her Alzheimer's is really bad right now. And when I heard that, I said, if it's not going to be useful to her because she isn't going to take it in, maybe it's not worth bringing that to the family, because a lot of people, plus they get hounded by everybody. And I didn't want to be one of those people like, hey, look at me, to get something from them, because my heart truly, Sandie, is only about just bringing those beloved, like Steve, I loved him. And to bring that message to his family, I would love to do that. I would love to bring the messages of each of them to their families. And I would do it with real integrity and real sincerity in the heart, and for no, great cause for me, nothing to promote me. But it probably wouldn't be received that way.
Yeah, well, it's a brave thing to publicly channel, because you do make yourself a target. It's even braver to be channeling so many famous people, because you can just imagine people going, yeah, right, prove it. What's the reaction that you've had from people about the book?
Pardon me?
What sort of reaction have you had from the public about the book? I know David Primel loved it, and I know many other people have loved it, but have you had a lot of criticism as well?
I was worried about that, and I'm so happy to tell you not even one thing has ever been said to me. Not one thing. Not one remark, not one written comment, not one anything. I am so blessed. I'm so blessed because, I was geared up for it. I was all armored up and ready for it because I thought, of course, I'm going to hear something. Nothing. Thank God, nothing. And, that's beautiful. And I'm not saying it won't come. I'm sure it will someday. And if it does, that's okay, because we all have a right to believe what we believe and think what we think. And I can't say I wouldn't feel that way. I can't. So I accept that. I'm not here to convince anyone. I guess I say the messages stand on their own. It doesn't matter who gave those messages. I feel that they're standalone messages, and they are helpful and useful and loving and good no matter who put them out. It just so happens it's these folks. And earlier you had asked why them, or no, I'm not sure if you did. I thought maybe you asked why them. Well, I'll just mention they said that because I asked why you guys, why celebrities, and they said it's because if it was Aunt Joan or Uncle Joe, it's, not as many people would listen, and it's important they listen because people were all living lives where sometimes our focus is just not on point. It's not where it needs to be. And they wanted to help us with that because they've been there, done that, and now they can come back and tell us what they wish they had done differently.
And are they done? Do they feel that, job's over now, or do you think there's likely to be more messages coming forth?
Yes, if I had the time, there'd be another book. There would be. Right after that book, a few of them came. Amy Winehouse came, and so did Reuben Hurricane Carter, much to my shock, because I was certain he was alive. I mean, certain he was alive. And so him, and there's one other, and I can't remember in this moment, but way back then. And so those messages are sitting there. Plus, since then, yes, other messages have come from various ones, higher beings, master souls, and various gods, goddesses have come through with messages, absolutely. So there will be another book. There's no doubt about it. I just need to find some time, Sandie.
Well, you're listening to What is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and I'm speaking with international psychic medium, transformational speaker and author Lisa Najjar about the compelling collection of messages given to her by dozens of dead celebrities and famous historical figures like Abe Lincoln, Martin Luther King, John Lennon, Walt Disney, Shirley Temple, and more, which are shared in her book, Dying to Tell You, Channeled Messages from the Famously Dead. We'll be back with more from Lisa Najjar.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
I'm Fidel Nshombo. I was born in a city called the Bukavu in the Congo. We were a loving family, and then, boom, everything that I had disappeared in a single day. People think that when you are a refugee and they resettle you to America, and all your problems are done. They don't understand that that's the beginning of everything. I was not born a refugee. I was made one.
It's time we welcome refugee families with open arms. Learn more at embracerefugees.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Lisa Najjar, you've been channeling some messages about 2020, 2021, election, grief, love, self-love, etc. What can you tell us that you haven't already mentioned about this incredibly fertile but also very chaotic time that we're living in?
Yeah, they started talking to me back in 2019. Lord Shiva, Archangel Raphael came to me, and actually, again, me and Dava, we do these sessions where we're just, let's see who comes. And it was just fun, and I thought it would be fun, but man, I thought that 2020 would be a fantastic year. In fact, my best ever. And Lord Shiva and Archangel Raphael came and said, no, it won't be. And they went on to explain. And I had never gotten a negative message before. It was very, shocking to say the least. And I didn't I didn't accept it. I put it away and pretended I never heard it. But as it turned out, it was completely accurate. And so they went on to tell me that it would be a year of shocks, and more shocks, that the world would be turned upside down, to expect the unexpected, that what we thought possible would be impossible and impossible possible, that there would be a man-made war-like thing that would be unleashed to the world, that the world would be brought to its knees, and on and on. Everything we're living through. And in fact, they said that we'll look back to the fires in Australia, because they came again in January to tell me again. And in fact, Gaia herself channeled through me in January. And they reiterated what Lord Shiva had said in December, that we'll look back on the fires in Australia that were raging at the time and think this was the beginning. And they said, don't think of it as a punishment. It is not a punishment, but in lots of ways it is kind of the Armageddon, in the sense of, now don't get scared, it was the sense of we're awakening to more light on the planet. And so this is a necessary evil, so to speak. People need to be brought to their knees in the sense of getting right with their God, the God of their understanding. I don't care what that is, source, the sun, it doesn't matter what we call it. But get right with the truth inside of us, with goodness and truth and light and peace, and clear out all the old garbage inside of us, all the fears and blocks and prejudices and angers and negative emotions and all of that, the greed and competition. Clear it out. And they emphasized spending the year. They told us we'd be in our houses, and I thought that was the most bizarre comment to hear. Like, I said, David, why would we be in our houses? What's that mean? And it was so strange. And they said, don't look outside at the storm blowing outside. Only look inside and keep digging in and getting your house in order. Clean up your house. Really clean out all those dark places in yourself, because everything that we see outside of us is only a reflection of us, and it could not exist if we didn't hold those things inside of us. So they talked a lot about that. Then and they said also by the end of the year there'd be a lot more people on the spiritual path, and that was the blessing of it all. And then around Easter of this year, Jesus and Mother Mary came, in fact, right on Good Friday and on Easter Sunday, and told us that there would be the next thing that was coming before the end of the year was a lot of revelations, a lot of shocking revelations, and we need to be prepared for that. And mainly we need to focus on forgiveness. No matter what we hear, no matter what's going on, forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. And he explained why and how come that was so important for our ascension, basically. And so there's a lot about that. And then now I'm starting to ask a lot more about sort of the end of the year. They are talking about the election here in the U.S. because I'm now in the U.S. And a little bit about 2021. In fact, I'm doing a webinar on the 25th that's going to address a lot of it. And Isis and Lady Nada, who I didn't even know who she was until a week and a half ago, and Mother Mary have all come, and they're asking me to sit with them nightly, and I do. And they're talking to me about a lot of my own healing, self-love, and grief work. But they said it applies to everyone because we've all lost so much this year in terms of people, styles, ways of living, jobs, all of it. We've lost so much, and we're all grieving. So she's giving us some exercises and helping us to work through grief, collective grief and personal grief. And she's putting me through the gears, and I'm doing the exercises, and then I'm going to be sharing those in that webinar as well. So, and I'm like everyone, I'm waiting to hear more from them about how the whole year of 2021 is going to look, but I'm getting glimpses anyways. And I think things are going to smooth out. I will tell everyone that. It seems as if things are going to smooth out to some degree, not completely just yet, but they're going to smooth out a little. It's not going to be quite as tumultuous as it was earlier in this year. So let us pray.
Well, given that everybody, certainly anyone in the spiritual arena, does believe at the heart of it volatile time. This is a time of evolution. It's a time of awakening consciousness, and ultimately it's good. So looking at it from that angle, does it really make any difference whether it's Trump or Biden?
No, not at all. In fact, the agenda will be served. And that's almost a scary word to use these days, the agenda, because so many of us, you know, we have our feelings and thoughts about the agenda. But there is an agenda, though, a higher agenda, as you know, and I'm sure our listeners know. We know there's a higher agenda, and it's of light, and it's of ascension. And basically, we're going into the ascension. Now, from what I've heard from my sources, like my higher sources, it's not that everyone's going. In fact, many will choose not to go. But we're invited for the first time ever en masse to have this wonderful ascension that doesn't come after decades and lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of mastery. We get to go like this. But Jesus did tell me on Easter weekend that the one thing that will hold people back is if they do not forgive, not only the others that they're going to hear about and see, and they're watching right now, but there's parts of themselves that have done the kind of things that they'll hear about, and they're from past lives that we don't even remember, but it's held in the cell memory. And when we strike out at another and won't forgive someone because of the horrifying thing that we think they might have done, we are also blocking a forgiveness of the self for a lifetime. Maybe we were raised in a culture that we did some pretty horrific things, and we just don't remember. But it's being held there, and he wants us forgiving self and others. And so, no, it doesn't matter who wins, because the truth is that light is apparently going to win this time, and we're going into an ascension, or those that choose it. Now, those who don't, well, they have, they can go into a parallel existence of a third world situation, a little bit higher still, because everything is going up a notch, but not into the full fifth. But I bought my ticket, Sandie. I hope I'm going. I'm pretty sure I bought my ticket many, many years ago.
So what does Ascension look like then?
Well, I feel it's still, everything is still going to be, it's a duality consciousness everywhere, because there's still always, while we're in this universe, it's a duality universe. So, from what I understand, we're in a survival consciousness. Third dimension is survival consciousness. We're going to what's called the fifth dimension, and that is a creation consciousness. So we're still going to grow and evolve and learn our lessons like we always do, but no more lessons about survival. And what is survival? I mean, those are the things that we hate so much. The money and all the worry about that, our bodies getting sick. That's all survival stuff, whether we live or die or get sick, whether we eat, whether we have a successful career, that's survival. Relationships, that's survival. All that stuff will not be. Our learning and our lesson, they tell me, is going to be through creation. And I guess working on that track, we'll call it a track. But, we're multi-dimensional beings. And so there's always an emotional piece, but less. From what I understand, the fifth dimension is far less emotional. Here, this is the only planet, really, the only track here, the only planet. Earth is the only planet where there's emotion. So the rest of even the other people of the other planets in the third dimension, other places in the third dimension, they don't really have the emotion that we have. So anyone who's here on this planet has opted in to do emotional work, which is all our stuff, all our negative stuff and our love stuff and everything. The rest of the planets and the rest of the dimensions don't really have that emotional piece to it. So I think it's going to be easier. That's what I think. And there's a unity consciousness, and a peace prevails, and good for one for all, and all for one type of a true reality. Not just we're saying that because it's a campaign slogan. We mean it.
So now you're a very entrepreneurial, go-getting, active creator. You are creating a higher consciousness media production company with the intention of bringing uplifting content to the world. You've got many projects on the table. Let's talk about some of those. I mean, I know you've got a thriving YouTube channel, a podcast, you feature channeled messages from the famously dead and the masters. You're also very much involved with Mother Mary. You've got a tour coming up next year. And you're actually creating a new movie based on the channeled book, I Remember Union, the story of Mary Magdalene and Jesus. I've read that book. Tell us a little bit about some of these projects.
Yes, well, that book's one of my absolute favorites, and it has been for 20, I don't know how many years. I'm going to say 20, maybe it's 15. But I remember holding the book and crying, and I knew it was truth. And I've always wanted to see that book written by Flo Magdalena made into a movie. And every now and again, every few years, I'd keep in contact with Flo and say, is anyone making that into a movie? And it really never did get there. There was a few attempts. And finally, I met these amazing TV people in LA just this year, higher consciousness, beautiful women. And I said, guys, this is the one that should be made into a movie. We put the group together, and they've just finished the screenplay, and we're going to be making that into a movie. So I'm so happy for Flo and for this project. And Isis and Mother Mary just came in the other day and said, this is a statement. This movie is more than a movie. It's a project that the heavens are overseeing. So I'm very excited to be and honored to be even part of such a project. So that's coming. And my higher consciousness production company is just being created as we speak. And that will have all kinds of wonderful, uplifting content, because that's really what I'm here to do, is bring higher consciousness content to the world. The Mother Mary Sacred Sites Tour, that's going to be next year, hopefully in September. And Mary has said she'll be with me, and she'll be doing healing at these beautiful apparition sites in Europe. And it's a dream for me to even go on a tour. Never mind, I never thought I'd lead one. But I'll be channeling Mother Mary and Jesus at these sites. So lots of really wonderful things coming up. And I just encourage everyone to really dream, because these dreams that I have, they have been sitting in my closet and in my drawers for so many decades. And finally now, even in this time that looks so despairing, and they encouraged me, Spirit encouraged me and said, get the dreams out, Lisa. Every one of them can happen now. And they pushed me. And now it's all happening. And I'm just encouraging everyone to get into those drawers and closets, pull out those dreams you've been putting away and thought you can't do because you're maybe too old or the world doesn't support it anymore. Forget about it. It will. It will. And George said this is an excellent time to manifest. So everyone just go for it. That's what I'm doing.
And you're also creating a TV show focusing on youth. Just say a little bit about that before we close.
Oh, and that, of all the things that I mentioned, they're all passions of mine, every one of them. But that, the one with the youth, that's my truest passion right there. I love youth. I love youth more than anything, and especially young adults. And so I've always had this dream, and Archangel Ariel is overseeing the project. She told me she's helping me with it, and we're going to find young people and work with the higher consciousness young people out there, and just young people doing amazing things. And yes, it's going to be a TV series, and that's the one I'm actually even most excited about, even though I love them all. All the projects are great, but that one's the one that my heart's like beyond involved in. And so, yeah, because I think youth they're our future for one thing. And I just love working with them. And I'm dreaming that one for sure.
And you're also creating a documentary series based on the book Dying to Tell You. I mean, are you going to have actors in it playing some of these celebrities?
That is the project that I can probably speak the least to. And the reason is that didn't come from me. I had never even imagined such a thing. It was some TV people, not just ones who would want to exploit at all. These are really higher consciousness, beautiful souls that really care about, just taking the messages in the book and saying, here's where these people were, here's what they fought for or loved or went after, and now what are they saying? That kind of a thing, and doing it in a very tasteful, beautiful way with, a lot of integrity, never exploitive or anything. And so they're the ones who brought to me the idea and are suggesting it. And I said, I will look at it. If it's done in such a way that is really honoring, and if they agree, which I've already asked some of them, and they said yes, they would agree, but it has to be a collaborative thing and it has to be done extremely well to where I feel so sure that it's done, again, solely from the heart. It's all got to be done that way or I'm not interested. So that one I can't say too much about because, as I said, it didn't come from me at all. And I'm not even sure 100% what we'll do with it, but that's what they would like to do.
Okay. Well, Lisa Najjar, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure, Sandie. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Dying to Tell You, Channeled Messages from the Famously Dead is the title of the book by Lisa Najjar. And if you want to know more about Lisa's work, I mean, she offers private readings and all kinds of workshops. You can find out more at dyingtotellyoubooks.com. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. You can learn more about me and the No BS Spiritual Book Club at my website, sedgbeer.com. In the meantime, I'll be back with another edition of What Is Going On at the same time next week. Till then, it's goodbye from me.